greetings. Thank you for joining me. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to prepare a little mojo bag for love. And specifically, I'll show you a mojo bag for love when you're trying to reconcile with a love interest partner. Maybe you've had a few tough times recently, or maybe they've done something that you didn't want them to do, and the relationship is a little bit rocky, so you want to prepare something such as a love mojo bag to help support the rekindling of that relationship. I suppose I would put it like that. And the reason why I'm being a little bit more specific is that there's so many different types of mojo bags. So many types. There's so many different names as well for these mojo bags, and they have been used throughout history. Every different culture has a way of basically holding magical ingredients that are infused with intention and purpose to achieve an outcome. I like that explanation, actually. So today I'm going to show you one way to prepare a mojo bag. Now, I do have actually three separate spell casting videos where I'm going to show you a different style of mojo bag. And I'll say mojo bag because in different cultures and traditions, they call these different things. So I'll go into that in those specific videos. For today, we're going to be using a little red mojo bag. Now, traditionally, they would call it a red flannel, but you could also have, like a lot of my mojo bags that I keep for years, I have a leather mojo bag. And it's just a small little packet because you wear the mojo bag for as long as you need it. So I have one that I wear when I travel. And I had this for like maybe 15 years before it went missing. And I swear for about a year after this bag went missing, I didn't want to travel. I felt so nervous about traveling because this little bag had gone missing. But really what happened, it had served its purpose and it was having a rest, and it was time for me to create a new little leather mojo travel / protection bag. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is that if you're doing something for something like love reconciliation, maybe you only want something like, they call these velveteen mojo bags, or a red flannel mojo bag. And like I said, there's different ways you can prepare them just with cuts of fabric and string. But for today, I'm going to show you how to do it with something you can make them yourself, yes, but this is commercially prepared and they're like $1 or $2 each. It's like nothing. So the other tip I'm going to give you before we begin, because I might forget, is that you're going to be wearing these. So for a man, normally he wears it, he can put it somewhere on his body, but the idea is for it to touch your skin. And so if you have a smaller one, you got to think about this. Having it smaller and not having it too packed out with the ingredients, with the contents, is desirable if you're going to be wearing it, right? Or putting it under your pillow. If you have something larger, then that's a lot to be stuffing down your bra and make your boobs look lopsided. So probably, or if you put it in the center, it gives you another boob, right? And it's not too attractive. Also, at nighttime with these type of things, you're supposed to be putting them either, I like to put them on my altar space, my altar for love, or under the pillow. That's where you'd be having them. So size kind of matters if you want to consider what you're using these for. And the other thing why you wouldn't make it too expensive, like a fancy leather one, is that after the intention for this bag is complete, that's when you would bury the bag. You would thank it for its for doing what it was supposed to be doing, and you bury it. So would you want a big fancy leather one that you bury? Well, probably not, but something to consider as we go along. So today I'm preparing this mojo bag for a client whose husband has had a roving eye. probably more than a roving eye. Some of his other body parts were roving as well. But we have performed a different type of spell that has helped the couple reconcile. So now they're back in the same arena, but that doesn't mean the behavior is conducive for a long-term happy relationship in the future. And it doesn't stop someone from going out and making more mistakes. So that's when it can become rather tricky. So let's talk about how I would classify. I have a little ranking system that I'm using in this series to help you understand how easy it would be for you to perhaps do this work. Now, the preparation of a Mojo bag, yes, it's very easy to throw it all together, but the psychology behind what you're doing is you can't be mindless when you prepare a Mojo bag, because everything you put inside the bag, you need to activate and have an intention. So when I'm going through the motions of showing you this, in my mind, because most of the work you do magically is telepathic, well, especially when it comes to the dark magic. But what I'm doing is I'm asking, or I'm connecting with each of those elements before I'm putting it inside the bag, because the bag is only as strong as the elements that are in it. So what I'm saying is that every object that you put inside the bag, you're guiding the spirit as to what you want with the outcome. Think of it like that. So yes, it's a spiritual connection. It's an antenna into the spiritual world where you're saying, I need this help to overcome this situation. Now, let me also add that, because I just always run through my mind all of the different scenarios or questions people have for us after we prepare different spells and things. So quite often when we get a petition, I'll add this at the beginning, when we have a petition for this type of thing, people, especially if they're paying for it, they will stack on what they want like it's a McDonald's order. And you can't do that with magic. You can't have, I want him to be faithful, I want us to win lotto, I want to have a bigger house, I need his penis to be bigger, I want like, come on now, like, let's be serious. You need a very simple, clear, focused intention, focused petition. Now, why do I say that? Because the two key points you need to understand with magic is about, for a successful spell, the bare basics is your ability to get into state, so to be able to monitor your body or control your body so you can move from the mundane world into the magical, even if that's through the breath work or some meditation before you begin. And then it's about being able to visualize. They're the two key points of success if I had to boil it all down into two key points. So if you're struggling with those two key points, you can see how much of a greater struggle it is when you start to stack on your petitions. So how can you focus on a petition that's 10 points deep? You need to focus on just one point, one clear visualization. So if you're new to magic and that's the only thing you take away from today's video, that's something that'll take you through your lifetime of magic and have some success. Doesn't matter what type of magic you perform. So with all of that being said, how difficult do I rank the preparation of a Mojo bag for love? Well, it's a medium or an intermediate skill level that you need, because you need to be focused, you need to prepare, and you need to understand why you're putting each of those ingredients into the bag. And secondly, it's almost advanced. Love magic, I hate to say it, in itself is quite advanced. It's easy to put out a wish, but in what you need to do in order to control not only your own mind and your own actions in order to receive the blessings from the spell, but also to control and manipulate the mind of another person. And that requires a more advanced level of magic, really. It is some of the most hardest magic to have success in because you have to manipulate another person's free will. So let's talk about timing. Now, of course, love magic, especially reconciliation under the energy of Venus. So you're talking Fridays is the most auspicious time for love magic. And if you want to get into it, you would do it during the hour of Venus. So there's planetary calendars you can put onto your devices. That's really easy, and it's going to pop up and tell you the best time. Now, I'll have it next to a candle that's prepared for about a month, a full moon cycle. I like to work things, especially if I've created something that needs a lot of power or recharging, I will leave it on a love altar next to the best candle color if you want. So I'll go back and I'll feed that every Friday. And then also, let me tell you up front, you go back and feed your Mojo Bag at least every Friday, or on the day that you created the bag, which should be, in my magical system, on a planetary day that's most suited to the construction of that bag. And you would keep feeding it until you want that bag no more. So really, you're treating this like a little live object, a spiritually infused object that you need to, they call them feeding the mojo. So you're keeping that purpose and intention, and you're giving spirit an offering for helping you along the way. And at the end of it, like I mentioned before, when you finish with the mojo, or when it's served its purpose, maybe it'll just disappear, like my travel mojo bag, or maybe you need to bury it. So say, for example, this client, she feels like the reconciliation work she's quite happy with it. She's ready to release the mojo. She doesn't want to carry it around or feed it anymore. She would take it out, and I suggest that you bury it and you give it thanks for its purpose, and you're letting it rest. Personally, I would bury all the ingredients, including the bag, and you just leave it as is, okay? You leave it out there to the nature spirits, which is a lovely offering. Okay, so that's all the background that I wanted to put in with this specific Love Mojo bag. Now, some of you have said in comments, Savannah, you're not casting circles or anything like that. Generally, in my practices, I don't have to, but I will add now some additional things that you can do to put in that consideration into your spell work. Now, there is a jinx removing mojo that I have shot a video for, and I'll share what I did in that video with this video as well, because I think some of you will really appreciate this. So take a note of it now, because I'm not showing you during the construction of this bag. So what you do is you take some salt and you sprinkle that salt, almost a line of salt around the area that you're working. So in this case, I went around my altar space with the salt, and I made a salt circle that I worked within while I was constructing the Mojo Bag. I left the Mojo Bag by the candle that I'd created for that bag overnight, and then the next day I come back and I swept up the salt circle, and I put a pinch of that salt circle in the Mojo Bag before I sealed it. And then you put the salt circle, you put the remaining salt in a line across your front door. So if you're concerned about protection, that is something that I'm sharing with you for this specific spell that you can add into any Mojo Bag ritual that you do. So I've got my little book of shadows out here because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So let's look through these ingredients, and I'll tell you why for this reconciliation Mojo Bag I'm using what I'm using. So Balm of Gilead is very good for reconciliation, and I was told that these can sometimes be difficult to get these days. I'm not completely sure why. I was just told that, maybe you know. but this is probably one of the best for reconciliation work. So I'll be using some of that in this bag. Also, I like to use nutmeg. Now, nutmeg is really good for fidelity as well, so keeping him faithful in this specific case. I like to use chili powder, reconciliation. So chili powder is hot and passionate. I like to use rosebuds in these types of spells as well. And especially if my man has given me flowers, I always dry them out and save them, because I think, you know, that energy, that beautiful gift of giving the roses. And so this is now a part of something that you can use in spells. And so I would use some of the petals from those roses in this spell. Now, in most love spells, I'll always consider the usage of vervain, lavender, and passion flower. They're my personal 3 go-to herbs when it comes to love magic. In love spells, the orris root is something that, ORRIS, this is a specific root that is very typical in this type of love spell. So you might want a small piece of that root in the bag. But the most important is personal concerns. So we're talking some hair, some nail, maybe a cigarette butt, whatever has DNA, that's most important. Now, if it's a reconciliation spell, I want a photo of both of the people. So if it's myself and my lover or partner, I want to put a photo. I'll put it in face to face, and I will put our details on the back of the photo. I'll dress it with some love oil in each of the corners and one in the center. I might even write the petition of what I want from the target on the back of his photo. I will then roll those photos and I'll wrap a red cord around it, and then I'll also be putting that in the Mojo bag. So for me, that is most important. The other thing that is very common and beneficial when putting in a Mojo bag is the lodestones. Now, lodestones, this is something that most stores don't talk about, but lodestones should be a male and a female pair when it comes to love work. So normally lodestones come in a little packet, and it kind of looks like this. It's normally one little stone, and it has some magnetic sand on it already. Looks like a little hairy stone. But this is just one stone, and that's not bad. But lodestones, really to be effective, especially in love work, you need 2 lodestones. And it doesn't have to be a red lodestone if colors mean a lot to you, and they do to some witches, and that's cool. But I prefer to work with the natural lodestones. And remember, you don't want them really big. Let me show you this. I get these down my local Botanica, and they are quite big. Big, hairy lodestones. But how are you going to shove that in this little bag, right? So don't get all excited when you're buying these things, or you see them online and you think, wow, that's really going to do a better job to attract my guy back, to make him more faithful, to reconcile. I mean, even in a bag like this size, that's a lot to shove in your bra. It's going to give you very lumpy boobs. So it's not recommended. The other thing with a lodestone, they come in male and female pairs, if you didn't already know that. So a male lodestone, as you can imagine, might be a little bit more pointy. Oh, imagine that, he has a pointy bit. And then a female has a rounded, she's a little bit more rounded. But if you go to a Botanica or you buy from a store, ask them to match the lodestones. Sometimes if they have time, they might match the lodestones. Often they're normally too busy to do that, understandably, so you'll have to learn to do it yourself. Get a bunch of them and learn to match them yourself. But for love work, say you had an altar for love, you would have a male and female lodestone that you would be matching and putting together, male and female, and you'll feed them so they have a very healthy relationship. You need to feed these often to keep them active. I'll put them back in their box. And as you can see, you buy lodestone food. Yes, you need to feed them. And then there's also magnetic sand that generally comes with them as well. But that's a whole different lesson on itself, just on lodestones. No time for that. But generally what you want is to get 2 lodestones from something of this size. You can pick something, don't get too fussy, try and just pick something with pointy and something with rounded, and name them male and female. So I can't, this is Mr. Pointy, you can't see that. So this is Mr. Pointy. Let me pick my girl. This one looks a little bit round to me. Oh, I just killed her. I'll pick her up in a minute. Actually, I might pick something else. Here's round. Here's a smaller one, which is even better. She's a little bit more round. So I'll put them together in the bag, something really, really small. But remember that lodestones require feeding. So if you're going to put them in a Mojo bag, think about how you're going to feed them if they're inside that bag. You know, because most of the time you will seal the Mojo bag with 3 ties or something like that at the end. So consider that, okay? So there's many different options where you don't use the lodestones, and maybe that's what you need to consider. Now, let me also tell you that you should have an odd number of objects inside your Mojo bag. And I say, this is my personal thing, I don't have any more than 9. And the lodestones, that male and female that go in there, that would be considered 2 objects. So for me and my Mojo right now, so I'm going to have the lodestone, so that's 1, 2. I'm going to have the photos. I can't show you them. Actually, I have to rip them apart because I'm putting them face to face. So that's 3, 4. Then I'm going to be putting the chili. So that's 5. I'll put the balm of Gilead. That's 6. The vervain, 7. Passion flower, 8. And lavender, 9. Now, actually, I told a lie. Patchouli is also one of my favorite love drawing, sex magic, sexual performance type of herbs. So it's something that I might think of. And actually, if I have to think about it, what will I remove? I'll remove the vervain. I'll remove the vervain in favor of patchouli. So that's what I mean. You've got to think about it and consider each of those herbs as you're popping them into your Mojo bag. Now, I'll just say that I'm lighting a charcoal disc right now because I want to smudge this little bag or consecrate the bag when it's finished. So I'll just have a little charcoal disc preparing itself in its heat-proof dish. Now, to begin, I'm lighting a white candle, and I might just cleanse this space of any energies or entities that don't serve my highest purpose or wish me harm or wish the client harm. So what I'm doing is I'm cleansing this space with this white candle. That is the idea behind it. Now, because I'm performing this little love spell for 2 clients, I'm going to hold my picture in my dominant hand, my receiving hand, and call to the energy of Venus because it's a love spell. And I might say something like, Venus, shine your light this way. Plant the seeds of love this day. Bring me the hearts of these 2 and aid me in the spell I do. So now I'm going to prepare some of the ingredients on the tray. And as I'm doing, I'm just slightly connecting with each of the herbs. Balm of Gilead, just 1. And I place Mr. and Mrs. Mojo into the bag. Oh, they connected straight away. That's so sweet. I'll take off the pictures. I just wanted you to see Mr. and Mrs. Lodestone connecting in the middle. I thought that was so sweet. They just jumped straight in there together. So with my dominant hand, I'm going to be filling up the bag. As I fill up the bag, I might say a little chant, something like, lavender, chili, passion flower, I charge you now in this very hour. Lodestone, Mr., him and her, charge this mojo with your power. Now on the back, I'm going to be writing the names. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to dress the photos as well with some type of love oil. So here I have two I could potentially choose from, and maybe I use a mixture of the both. So in our range, we have a commitment oil, but there's also a fidelity oil. And thinking long term, because they are a couple and they're reconciling, actually we have reconciliation oil as well, but I really want them to be, because the spell already brought them back together. So what we want is for commitment, long-term marital commitment. I'm just putting a dot in each corner. Just going with the flow. I've got some honey here, and to stick them together I might do so with a drop of honey. Oh, hear the thunder. Yes, the spirits agree. And then with some red string, rolling it towards me. I'm going to wrap this around. And as I'm wrapping it around, I'm thinking about binding him to this relationship, binding him to my client. Now I did 9 times in just because I liked the idea of 9 for this, but some people like 5 and some people like 7. Remember what I was saying, it all gets into your little groove. When you start practicing magic for a long period of time, you get to do some things in magic that you like to do, that you feel comfortable doing. Now on your little charcoal disc that you've been burning away, maybe you want to also put a little bit of the herbs that you used in the bag. Now while that just heats up, I'll also be putting a drop of the oil on each corner of the Mojo bag. Something I always do with my mojos is I always breathe in them as well. So I might breathe in them beforehand and I might breathe in them before I close the bag, but I give a breath of life into the mojo, the witch's breath. And really I'm just spending some time just really connecting to with what I'm asking, especially if this was a spell I'm doing for myself. I'm really feeling what I want as a result. How would it make me feel if he was committed to me, if our relationship was to last forever? And all of these positive affirmations and the goals of vision you have for this relationship should be impressed upon these objects as you're putting them in the bag. And so as we're charging it over the incense, you might want to say something like, Mojo, Mojo, work for me, creating love energy. Bring these two hearts as one. Death do us part. Their fate is done. Now we consecrate the bag with the energy of the lightning. Told you I was a planetary magician. And so be it. So now it is done. You seal the bag, and you can tie the bag. It's said to tie the bag 3 times, but because this is for my client, I want my client to have the bag. So I'll give her this bag. I'll give her some oils to go with the bag. And I'll probably ask her to also add a personal concern of hers and his inside the bag. So for this bag, in reality, it's going to take it up to 11 items. Still okay. It's odd numbers, so that's fine with that. But I'd really want her to do something like that. And it is a little bit larger. Remember, this has got to be worn next to the chest or put under the pillow. So that is it. By the power of the gods, the old gods and the new, my little bag is now finished and ready to be sat on the altar. Over the next month, I have a candle prepared for the client with a purpose, of course, and I will return to this mojo every Friday and feed it some of that oil. I'll also open it a little bit. I might breathe on it and give it some magnetic food if I desire. But that's not typical. Normally when you seal a mojo bag, it's always sealed. So if you're like my client, maybe you're doing this in addition to a spell that you may have cast to support the outcome of that spell. Or maybe you choose to make one of these little mojos as a spell in itself, because this is a spell container, and see what happens to your love life. All right, well, that's enough tips for this week. But I always love to hear your feedback and your suggestions, and I'll see you next week. So may your spell casting be auspicious. Bye for now.